My wife looked at me and said, "You have to go back to Ukraine. I can see it in your eyes."
I was on the ground less than 30 days after the war began, starting to do what I could for the animals.
We didn't have the danger back then as we do now with the FPVs. They are everywhere.
We might be at the front lines, we might be delivering supplies, we might be transporting animals. We need to adjust as the situation adjusts.
Том та Філ – волонтери зі Сполучених Штатів Америки, які вже понад 3 роки допомагають українцям евакуйовувати домашніх улюбленців з прифронтових зон. За цей період їм вдалося врятувати понад 5 тисяч тварин. Цієї весни вони знову повернулися в Україну. Том та Філ розповіли нам, чому саме вирішили стати волонтерами, про свою діяльність протягом року та з якими труднощами стикаються під час евакуації тварин.
I really had no idea what I was going to do when I did arrive. I knew that I could help in Poland with the refugees and distributing humanitarian aid, but that ended up just going for a little while, and I met some people that had a veterinarian clinic in Poland, began working with them, came into Lviv and rescued some animals. This was at the very beginning of the war. And from that point on, I realized that my expertise was in the transportation and rescuing of animals. I went home after that first 3 weeks, and my wife looked at me and said, "You have to go back to Ukraine. I can see it in your eyes."
I've been doing animal rescue back in the U.S. for more than 20 years. And seeing what was going on here after the invasion by Russia in February of 22, I saw that there was all the aid coming for people, and there was very, very little coming for the animals. But yet the animals were bearing a lot of impact that wasn't being discussed. And we made the decision to come over here and assist the animals. And I was on the ground less than 30 days after the war began, starting to do what I could for the animals. And now 3 years later, this is my 15th trip here.
So I've always had a great rapport with them. And my very last job before I retired, I worked for a foundation in the United States called the Traveling Farm. And what that was a group of people that we would take farm animals to the local elementary schools and teach children about agriculture and farming.
The main motivation in going there is you get an immediate result. The work that we do there when we go and do high-risk evacuations of these animals, you see the immediate result. You see the satisfaction. You know that when you take that animal out of that hostile zone, that they now can be at peace. And there's an almost immediate change with these animals from the time that we take them out of that zone to putting them in the van, and by the time we get them back to where they're going to be triaged at a clinic or a shelter, they've calmed down, they're not as stressed out anymore.
The difficulty is just being able to manage my expectations on what I can do for people and for their animals. There's only so much we can do. If we could pick up every animal, we would, but we have to have somewhere to take it, and that is the main problem that we have, is getting the animals to somewhere safe. We've had donkeys in our vans, hawks, owls, goats, sheep, and hedgehogs, you name it. We were down in Kherson for the Kharkova Dam flood, and anything that was on a rooftop we would rescue. It was mostly cats and dogs, but birds, anything that needed rescue.
Over the last year, it's become so much harder. And a lot of the difficulty is just in the fact that there are so many animals. There aren't sterilization programs that are out in the communities. We have year-round puppy and kitten seasons now where puppies and kittens are being born instead of in the spring and in the fall, they're being born year-round every single month. We've run out of space for them, and unfortunately, as the Russians have made forward advancements into populated areas, the people have left, and unfortunately, they've left their animals behind. And we just have an issue that it's becoming forgotten. The animals are becoming forgotten, and they shouldn't be.
It has changed quite a bit over the last year. The first 2 years, it was fairly easy, if you will. There were a lot more volunteers and animal groups that were here, but in the last year, it's quite a few have disappeared. There aren't as many people transporting animals, and I get a lot of requests, and more than I can handle. I do as much as I can. And the other is rescuing the animals from the frontline areas. It is much more dangerous than it was 2 years ago. I've been in Bakhmut and Avdiivka, Chasiv Yar, all along the Zaporizhzhia frontline area. We didn't have the danger back then as we do now with the FPVs. They are everywhere. In a lot of ways, we're kind of on our own once we get into these frontline areas and try to evacuate animals.
The plan for my organization, for Global Animal Rescue and Response, is we're going to keep coming back. That's the plan. Each trip is completely different. We don't know from one trip to the next exactly what we're going to be doing. We might be at the front lines, we might be delivering supplies, we might be transporting animals. We need to adjust as the situation adjusts.
Our main focus is actually food distribution. We get a lot of donations from the UK, from Denmark, from Germany, and we have, just this year alone, we've had over 1,000 tons of food brought into the country, and it's never enough. People are always asking for supplies, for food, for medicine, all over the country.
They're part of your family also. If you're planning to evacuate, you need to please plan an evacuation plan for those animals. Find somewhere for them to go. Call the organizations. Put out a plea for somebody to help you, but just please do not leave them behind.
I have the utmost respect for this country and believe that this country is going to go on to be one of the greatest countries in the world, not only because of its minerals and its natural resources, but the people. I've met plenty of young people, such as yourself, me with hope for the future.
Допомога тваринам під час війни – це акт милосердя, що надихає та об'єднує людей з різних країн.